Now the car I'm about to drive hasn't exactly got the same history as this, but it still has its place in motoring heritage. And what is that place? A name that encompasses so much motoring history that whole libraries are dedicated to this company, with cars that are literally jaw-droppingly gorgeous. Some would even say works of art, and worth just about the same. Now this may not be an original, but it's still a great car. So tell me a little about your Type 50 Grand Sport Bugatti, please, Mike.
Basically, I bought it as a Type 49, which was what the previous owner thought it was. And I accepted it on that basis and started to research into Bugatti history because I don't know a great deal about Bugattis, or didn't then.
Now, had you always wanted to own a Bugatti?
Yes, I had. That started really with my wife buying me a book on classic cars called The World's Greatest Cars, and they list the top 10 names. But Bugatti seemed to have a certain romance about it somehow that other cars didn't have, probably because he was a relatively small manufacturer and a very innovative one, that I thought it would be lovely to own one, but never really expected to find one at a price that I could afford to pay.
And who did you buy the car from?
I bought the car from a gentleman called Andy Snell in Bath, who had actually been responsible for putting the finishing touches to it.
Now, there are a number of little design cues and quirky parts about the Bugatti, such as the colour. What story do you like most to sort of hang on to about where that colour came from?
Well, apparently the story from Paul Kessler's book, Bugatti and the Evolution of Style, and he says that the blue of Bugatti was actually taken originally from the Gauloise cigarette packet, but it's also the sporting colour of France.
Tell me a little about the way it drives.
Quite different from a modern car in the sense that it doesn't have the refinements of power steering or wide tyres or independent suspension, and so one really has to learn to drive the car all over again from scratch. It has an outside handbrake, of course, and no heater, or no roof, so it's really quite different.
Now, you bought the car believing it was a Type 49 because you were told it was a 49, but when you started to look into it and use a bit of detective work, you realised that it wasn't a 49 but in fact a 50. That must have been a very exciting day for you when you discovered that.
Basically, it seems to be built according to the measurements of a Type 50 Grand Sport. And I started to notice that there were some differences between this car and the Type 49. The radiator shape doesn't have a semicircular opening in the base, which the Type 49 did, the width of its track and wheelbase and so on. And I wondered whether the car had been misdescribed. And so, with the help of a member of the Bugatti Owners Club, I started to accumulate the information that I needed to get a better view of what it was.
Now, much has been written about Ettore Bugatti. He was not only a car designer, but he also designed boats, planes, even shoes. And he was a real maverick character, wasn't he?
I think he was obviously an incredible man in all sorts of ways. He was an artist by training. He had no formal engineering training, and yet clearly was a very gifted and a very intuitive engineer. I think in many ways he tended to stick to fixed ideas of doing things. He was still manufacturing and selling cars with cable brakes long after hydraulic braking systems had been introduced, even though he designed one of the first hydraulic braking systems and patented it.
And I suppose when you go down to the local shops, it's a real crowd puller.
Oh, absolutely amazing. You know, the car park almost empties and gathers a crowd around the car. Yes, people love it. When you drive along the road, every face coming towards you has a smile on it, which is rather nice. It's an absolute joy for children, a real magnet. And it's a showstopper. Wherever I take it and wherever I park it, it seems to draw a crowd.